Yeah! We got the video out tonight.
Let's go.
The video is out tonight.
Hey, big time.
That really means big time.
Big time.
I'm going. I know you're going.
The silence wasn't by chance. It was intentional. And that's what made it unsettling. When Clarissa Shields finally spoke about her personal life, it wasn't accompanied by a smile, a hidden caption, or a picture meant to smooth over rumors. No, it came with a silence so thick, you could feel it. A silence that spoke volumes, suggesting something shattered beyond repair. For years, Clarissa presented herself as untouchable, unyielding, a fighter who never folded, someone who turned pressure into power without a second thought. But this moment was different. It didn't come from the ring. It didn't come from any victory. It came from the heart, and it dropped with a weight that couldn't be ignored. After rumors of her split with Papoose, people expected her to shoot back, deny, respond with anger, push the conversation down with a sharp rebuttal. Instead, she did something unexpected. She confirmed she was seeing someone new. No name, no face, just one simple line. I'm happy, I'm in a good place. That line alone shook the internet. Happiness doesn't usually sound that controlled. Peace doesn't walk in wrapped in secrecy. Almost instantly, whispers turned into wild theories. Screenshots began spreading. Threads grew longer. People began to claim that the man was wealthy, powerful, someone who lived outside the public's eye, someone who didn't care for the spotlight. Others warned that she was rushing, that emotional wounds don't heal that quickly. Silence, they said, hides unresolved pain. And yet, through all of it, Clarissa stayed silent. She didn't deny the rumors. She didn't confirm them either. She just asked for space. Music, that request in itself, spoke louder than anything. When someone who has always faced public scrutiny asks for distance, you know something has shifted. Something deep. Something left unspoken. As the days dragged on, the mystery deepened. No proof surfaced. No confirmation came. Just an empty name and a story that refused to die. Clarissa Shields had conquered loss, pressure, and public judgment before. But this time, she wasn't fighting back. She was protecting something. And the most dangerous stories are the ones that remain unfinished. What happened next was never meant to be quiet. For years, Clarissa had lived under the spotlight. Every victory cheered, every defeat analyzed, every emotion, every move put under a microscope. She had built herself as the untouchable fighter, someone who takes hits and never asks for pity. But this time, the hit didn't come from an opponent. It came from her own words. No big announcement. No perfectly timed post. No engagement-seeking captions. Just a statement that landed like a bomb. She said she was in a new relationship, but the way she said it shifted everything. There was no excitement in her voice. No hint of celebration. No joy. Just a tone that was cautious, almost distant. Fans noticed. This wasn't happiness. This was a wall. Then she did something that spoke louder than the statement itself. She refused to identify him. No name, no clue, no trail to follow. In an age where relationships are often paraded for attention, her silence felt calculated, defensive. That's when the rumors really took off. Who was he? Why the secrecy? Why now? The questions were endless. Some whispered that he was a powerful man, wealthy beyond belief, someone whose power didn't need to be showcased. Others argued it was less about privacy and more about protection. Music? Protection from what? Protection from who? Fans speculated, trying to piece together the timeline. The separation from Papoose felt too recent, and the distance between then and now seemed far too small. People replayed old moments, searching for clues. And now, Clarissa seemed emotionally distant, like someone guarding a secret too precious to share. Some called it rushed, some called it overdue, but what stood out was something subtler, the restraint. She wasn't visibly sad. She wasn't in a rush to move on. She was holding back, carefully, as if something deeper had happened. The quietness was louder than any answer. That's when the rumors sharpened. Was a relationship a safe haven or a rebound? As screenshots spread and the threads expanded, more anonymous sources filled in the gaps. None of it could be verified, but the stories kept piling up. Claims of wealth, claims of extreme privacy, claims that Clarissa was choosing peace over drama. Yet the name remained elusive. The silence, heavy. The story, stubborn. The theories varied, but they all chased the same question. What broke her? Fighters don't pull back unless something shifts beneath them. Something cracks. Then Clarissa responded, not with anger, not with defense, but with raw emotion. Music. She asked for kindness. She asked for privacy. She asked for people to stop speculating. Her words weren't sharp, they were tired. The kind of tired that comes from holding everything together without showing a crack. That was the moment the tone shifted. This wasn't gossip anymore. This was a woman asking the world to back off. And the world doesn't always listen. The more Clarissa retreated, the louder the questions became. People demanded to know why she was protecting him so fiercely. If it was real happiness, why the secrecy? Why confirm anything if she wasn't going to explain it? With each passing day, the pressure grew. Once a mystery is confirmed, the control slips away. Observers started comparing this moment to her past relationships, pointing out how different this felt. Before, she stood proudly beside love. Music now. She stood alone beside silence. Silence in the public eye is rarely read as peace. It's often seen as damage control. That's when the theories really took off. Some said he was hiding behind wealth and power. Old money, private circles. Tight rules about exposure. Others said it wasn't him she was protecting. It was herself. A woman who once loved publicly and paid the price for it. A woman who had learned the hard way just how costly visibility can be.
Clarissa, you're one of the most beautiful queens I've met in my life. Here's a like in real life. It's a like in real life. What's your sign? Pisces. Pisces with the same sign. I'm gonna walk away because I don't want to get beat up or, you know what I'm saying, a book thrown at me. You know what I'm saying? I don't want no problems, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna walk up this way, you know what I'm saying?
Then came the most uncomfortable question. What if happiness wasn't the full story? What if survival was? Because the strongest people don't, music, announce their healing. They move silently, letting the world keep talking while they find their footing. Clarissa's silence didn't look like romance. It looked like armor, music. Fans quickly divided into two camps. One side defended her right to disappear. The other felt entitled to answers. Comment music sections turned into courtrooms. Judgment passed without proof. Verdicts made without facts. Everyone speaking, no one listening. She stopped explaining herself, and in doing so, deepened the mystery. The story began to exist only in fragments. A confirmation with no details. A smile with no warmth. A relationship with no face. Each piece, though incomplete, made something unsettling. Something was being guarded. Something important enough to risk backlash. Something Clarissa decided was not for public consumption. The music question stopped being about who the man was. It became why the world wasn't allowed to see him and why. For the first time in her career, Clarissa Shields looked like she was fighting a battle she didn't want the world to watch. By the time music, the confirmation settled in, the damage was already done. Silence doesn't calm crowds. Music, it stirs them. Clarissa chose not to explain herself, but in doing so, the narrative didn't get stolen. Music, it was handed over, given directly to an audience skilled at reading between the lines. Lines that were never written. And what they read wasn't romance. It was music risk. The internet didn't speculate. It interrogated. Timelines were reconstructed. Old interviews replayed. Facial expressions slowed and studied like evidence. People stopped asking if she was happy. They started asking what she was escaping. Because happiness rarely arrives guarded, and privacy never feels as urgent. Waves of unverified information flooded in, treated like fact. Claims the man wasn't just wealthy, but elusive. Claims they demanded zero exposure. Claims that this wasn't Clarissa hiding love, but hiding herself inside it. The tone shifted again, from curiosity music to concern, from gossip to warnings. Voices questioned whether the relationship was really new, or if it was just newly revealed, whether the secrecy was about respect or regret. Nothing was confirmed. Everything was repeated. And repetition music is how rumors hardened into belief. The most unsettling part wasn't what people said. It was what Clarissa music didn't correct. She didn't clarify timelines. She didn't deny overlap. She didn't shut down the wealth talk. She stayed silent. In public life, silence is never neutral. Fans began noticing patterns, small details, the way she spoke differently, the absence of warmth where fire once lived, the way she described happiness like something fragile instead of triumphant. Music. Fighters don't talk like that unless something shifts inside. Old footage resurfaced. Moments that once felt carefree now seemed heavy. Smiles and music. Once appeared genuine now looked strained. The past was reread through the present, and the result was uncomfortable. The story stopped seeming like a clean break. It seemed like accumulation. Pain stacked music on pressure. Pressure stacked on expectation. Expectation stacked on a woman who's never been allowed to rest without being scrutinized. At the center of it all, one crucial detail was missing: the man himself. No photos, no leaks, no accidental sightings. In a world that exposes everything, that level of invisibility felt deliberate. Music. Some said he had the resources to stay hidden. Others believed Clarissa was enforcing the silence herself. Either way, the result was the same. The relationship didn't feel like romance. It felt like shelter, and shelters are built after damage. Comment sections became ruthless. One side said she owed nothing. The other said transparency was the price of fame. But the real conflict was never about the relationship. It was about control. Who owns the story of a public woman when she stops performing it? Clarissa, music. Shields made her answer clear. No one. But clarity has never, music, stopped chaos. As days passed, new angles emerged. Some suggested her request for privacy wasn't about romance at all, but music, healing. That she wasn't protecting a man. She was protecting herself. Protecting herself from repeating cycles. Music, from turning love into contempt, from turning pain into entertainment. That interpretation existed, but it didn't trend. The darker theories always move faster. Music, speculation slid into accusation, never saying outright. Headlines leaned into implication. Influencers framed their opinions as facts. The music story stopped being about what was said and became obsessed with what was withheld. Through all of it, Clarissa stayed composed. No breakdown, no defensive speeches, no attempts to regain control, just distance. And distance made the public lean in harder. Observers compared her actions to women before her. Women who chose secrecy after exposure burned them. Women who learned the cost of letting the world get too close. Music. The pattern was both familiar and unfair. When women withdraw, they're labeled suspicious. When music, they protect peace, they're accused of hiding damage. Clarissa stopped being treated like a person. She became a case study. The tragedy wasn't that she confirmed a relationship. Music. The tragedy was that confirmation wasn't enough because the audience didn't want music truth. They wanted access. And access is something she no longer seems willing to give. The narrative music now sits in precarious place, suspended between rumor and restraint. Every day without confirmation sharpens curiosity. Every quiet moment fuels another theory. Every attempt to move forward pulls her right back into the cycle. The man remains unseen. The relationship stays undefined. The tension stays unresolved. Clarissa Shields, the fighter who built her name by confronting opponents head-on, is choosing the one move no one saw coming. Music refusal. Refusal to explain. Refusal to perform happiness. Refusal to let love be interrogated like a crime. But refusal comes with consequences. The internet does not reward boundaries. It punishes music them. The more she protects this chapter, the more relentless the curiosity becomes. The story is no longer about who she's with. It's about what changed her. Music. And until that answer comes or never comes at all, the mystery will not fade. It will only grow deeper. Because the most viral stories music aren't fueled by answers. They are fueled by silence. The narrative entered its most dangerous phase when curiosity hardened into judgment. Clarissa Shields was no longer seen as a boxer confirming a relationship. She became a timeline, a case file, a public record. Every pause in her voice was dissected, every word analyzed, every music. Refusal to explain treated like evidence withheld. In the court of public opinion, withholding is framed music as guilt. The questions didn't get louder. They got sharper. Why confirm anything if secrecy was the goal? Why appear relieved and worn down at the same music, time? Some began arguing this wasn't a soft reveal of love. It was a controlled message of survival, a way of saying she music was still standing, but without inviting the world into the wreckage. Something had clearly shifted. The Clarissa people once knew ran music into storms. But this version moved like someone who had learned where storms do the most damage. Music. She spoke about happiness like it was fragile, borrowed, something needing protection before it vanished. That tone unsettled people more than any rumor ever could. Then the framing shifted again. Commentators stopped asking who the man was. They started asking what kind of man needed this much distance. Was he powerful enough to disappear? Or was Clarissa powerful enough to finally say no to exposure? Two narratives emerged, both uncomfortable for a culture obsessed with access. Speculation crossed a line when timelines became weapons. Old appearances were stitched together. Quotes were taken out of context. Emotions rewritten after the fact. The music, past stopped being the past. It became evidence. People spoke with certainty about moments they never experienced. Music and confidence without facts always turns into cruelty. What made this chapter darker was not the gossip itself. It was the entitlement behind it. The belief that a woman who bled in public owes the public her healing. That music, silence equals manipulation. That privacy must mean guilt. But restraint can also mean exhaustion. Those closest to the situation stayed quiet. No confirmations. No denials. No leaks. That silence created a vacuum where facts should have lived. Vacuums don't stay empty. They fill with the loudest assumptions. Some framed the relationship as escape. Others framed it as recklessness. Both ignored the possibility that it was neither. That this wasn't about running towards someone new, but running away from becoming public property. Again, the tragedy here is subtle. Clarissa didn't ask for music sympathy. She didn't ask for validation. She didn't ask to be understood. She asked to be left music alone. And that request got treated like provocation. The more she pulled back, the more invasive the commentary became. Influencers broke down her demeanor like surveillance, music, footage. Headlines leaned into implication without crossing legal lines. Words like allegedly and sources say became shields for speculation. At this point, the story stopped being about truth. It became about appetite. The audience wanted a face, a reveal, a downfall, or fairy tale. Anything except ambiguity. But ambiguity is exactly what Clarissa gave them. Ambiguity scares people who rely on certainty to feel in control. Every public figure reaches a moment when they realize the crowd isn't cheering for them. It's cheering for the story projected onto them. That realization changes how you move, how you speak, and how much of yourself you're willing to give away. Clarissa seems to have reached that point. Instead of feeding the machine, she starved it. And starving machines make them hostile. The narrative music now floats in limbo, not confirmed enough to end, not explosive enough to burn out. Just unresolved enough to follow her into every interview, every win, every private moment. Music. And that may be the cruelest part. Even if the relationship is healthy, even if the man is kind. Music. Even if the happiness is real, it may never be allowed to exist quietly. Because once the world decides you owe them a chapter, they don't accept music footnotes. Clarissa Shields spent her life fighting to be seen for her strength. Now she is examined for her restraint. And in a culture built on exposure, restraint reads like rebellion. This is no longer about a boyfriend. It's about boundaries. About a woman refusing to bleed on command. The mystery may never resolve. The man may never be revealed. The truth may stay exactly where music, Clarissa placed it, out of reach. And that unresolved tension is why the story refuses to die. not because of scandal, but because the audience was never meant to finish it. The final truth is simple. Music. Clarissa Shields didn't lose control of her story. She took it back, and the world couldn't handle it. What looks like secrecy from the outside feels like survival on the inside. This was not a soft romance reveal. It was a line drawn after learning how fast love music gets weaponized when cameras are watching. The silence wasn't weakness. It was defiance. And defiance always comes with a price. Somewhere along the way, admiration turned into entitlement. Music, support turned into surveillance. People didn't want her happiness. They wanted music, access to it. Names, faces, timelines, explanations. When they didn't get them, curiosity turned into suspicion. Suspicion turned into judgment. That is where betrayal lives. Not in a man, not in a relationship, but in the way the public consumes pain and demands more. Snorts. Clarissa Shields gave the world victories, scars, honesty, music, and resilience. The one thing she refused to give was unlimited access music to her heart. For that, she was judged without evidence and sentenced without facts. There is no reveal coming, no photo, no closure, because closure is not owed to spectators. Music. What remains is a woman choosing peace over performance, distance over destruction, music and privacy over praise. The real question is not who she's with. It's why the world feels entitled to music. Tear apart anything she chooses to protect. This story doesn't end with answers. It ends with boundaries. And boundaries are dangerous in a culture addicted to exposure.